Hello and welcome to another LOLhsc tutorial video, and today we're going to be going through the 2012 HSC Legal Studies exam, in particular the multiple choice questions, which range crime and human rights. Now what I'm going to do in this video is go through each of the 20 questions. At some, when they're straightforward, I'll just simply give you the answer. In others, I'll go through all the answers and tell you them why they're incorrect or correct. A good way of studying for this is have your textbook ready and look at the section of the notes where the question relates to, and pretty much just keep your mind fresh. Do a broader study than just the specific question. Now question 1 relates to who has the burden of proof in a criminal case. The key words here is burden of proof and in a criminal case. Now we know that it's not the jury, the judge. Where you can really get confused is between the defense and the prosecution. But in a criminal case, the person that has to prove the case to the court is, of course, the prosecution. For question 2, question 2 is what is the purpose, a key word there, of a committal hearing. Now committal hearing occurs before the actual trial, and what it does, as the answer B states, is establish the state's case. Now what it does is, if there isn't enough evidence to prosecute the person or have a chance of prosecuting the person, then the committal hearing won't turn into a trial. It will simply be dismissed. Question 3 is very straightforward again, is which of the following rights is an example of universal suffrage? Keyword there, universal suffrage. This should be very familiar to you, and you should know that it's universal voting. So it is a right to vote. Question 4 is, in the criminal justice system, decisions of higher courts are binding on lower courts. Which of the following terms is this statement describing? Now you just have to you can go through Google to find each of these questions and look at them. You'll know that adjournment and adjudication straight away do not relate to higher courts binding on lower courts. Where people may get confused is between jurisdiction and precedent. Whereas if you're a higher band 6 student, you'll know that what precedent is straight away, and that D is the answer. But the important part is to remember your key legal terms and know that jurisdiction, in terms of binding higher courts binding on lower courts, is precedent. Question 5 is, in a criminal trial, the role of a jury is to determine whether what? A sentence is given, the standard of proof is met, legal representation is granted, or evidence is admissible in court. Now we know evidence and whether it's admissible is done by the judge. Legal representation is done beforehand, is given by means test and all that. And a sentence is given it's always given. So we know that B, the answer is the standard of proof is met. So you can do that by process of elimination, or just by knowing your dot points on what the role of a jury is. Now question 6 is, a known offender is not released after his sentence has been served. Again, you can just go through each type and go, is this at home? No, it's not, so it's not A. B, is this periodic? No, it's just not being released, so it's not intermittently changing. C, is it on the weekend? The question doesn't state that it's on the weekend, but you can assume that it's not specifically weekend detention. And D, continued, so he's not being released, so you can say that yes, it is D, continued detention. I'm doing this in the elimination process just so you have a better idea of how you should go through the process in your head during the exam. Question 7. In the district court, 25-year-old Morgan is convicted of drug trafficking. What is the highest court that could hear an appeal by Morgan against the conviction? Now this is a question that brought about a lot of debate in 2012 for students, pretty much because a lot of people got confused between A, B, and C. Now straight away you should just eliminate the Court of Criminal Appeal, because you can, just by your knowledge of the courts and what cases they hear, but the question really revolves around which one you're going to pick, and you have to think about what is the role of each of these courts. And straight away just if you look up what is the role of the High Court, it tells you this. Cases. This is what cases can be heard by the High Court of Australia. Cases which involve interpretation of the Constitution, or where the court may be invited to depart from one of its previous decisions, or where the court considers the principle of law involved to be one of major public importance. And then we have further other cases which come to the High Court for final determination involves appeals against the decisions of the Supreme Courts of the States and Territories, of the Federal Court of Australia, and the Family Court of Australia. And the final one is the subject matter of the cases heard by the court traverses the whole range of Australian law. So there you go, you can know that although this will be confused by saying, well, the High Court only deals with the matters dealing with the Constitution and stuff like that. No, that's not correct. It can also deal with appeals. So yes, 25-year-old Morgan can appeal to the High Court of Australia if she or he wishes to. The separation of powers in the Australian Constitution establishes the independence. So what does the separation of powers separate it between? Now, if you know it straight away, it's very easy, this question. You just have to know what your separation of powers are and know what your division of powers are and what are the difference. So you'll know that the answer is C, judiciary, legislative, and executive, and you should know what are the functions of each of these. And also a good thing to know is why they should remain independent, because that can come up in a human rights, or even in a human rights question. Now for questions 9 to 11, we use the story we have here. So we have 25-year-old Jordan, 23-year-old Darcy stole cigarettes from a shop. As they were leaving the shop, Jordan and Darcy forced 18-year-old Ariel to hide the cigarettes under her shirt. They were then apprehended by police, taken to the police station and charged. To what legal right Jordan, Darcy, and Ariel entitled while being questioned at the police station? Now, first thing that whenever anyone hears when asked is, when arrested, is that you have the right to remain silent. So that is the answer. It's very straightforward, this one, that they have the right to remain silent at the police station. Now, next question is, which court has original jurisdiction to hear these charges? Now, this isn't a major offence. It's just theft. Does nothing to do with drugs specifically. It's not a high matter. So the original jurisdiction will go to the local court, and there is diagrams and stuff on Google Images that you can look at for the jurisdictions of the court. For original and appellate jurisdiction, it's a good thing to know, and a must, because these questions can come up very often. Okay, next question is, which of the following would be the most appropriate defense for Ariel to claim? Well, we know that automatism isn't a defense, so we can cross that one off. Consent, you go back and look at the case and go, well, was there consent given? No, there wasn't. D, was there provocation? There wasn't provocation. So C, was she under duress? Yes, she was under duress, because the key word here is was forced to hide. So then the answer is C, duress. Next question is 12. Which of the following is an example of an intergovernmental organization? Now, what intergovernmental means is it has interaction between the governments. And straight away, it's very easy. You can look at these. These are all non-profit organizations, are not intergovernmental here. So you go straight away, go to the Human Rights Council, and that's the correct answer. Question 13. What is the main aim of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights? Now, you just have to go through and look at what the ICCPR is and what it protects. Obviously, civil and political rights, but what are some of the rights that it protects from? And you'll know that just from reading about it, that D, to protect people from arbitrary use of power by governments, and that's a direct relation to civil and political rights. Whereas educational needs, cultural well-being, and their basic needs will be more the ICESCR. So the answer is D. If you want more information on them, just Google it and it will tell you what it is, what rights are protected. I don't want to go through them now, otherwise it will take too long. Next question is 14. What comes under the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court? Now, you would have studied this obviously in international law, not or as a part of the crime topic. You know that people smuggling isn't, drug trafficking isn't, cyber terrorism isn't, but war crimes is, and there is many cases that you will study in relation to the International Criminal Court and how it began prosecuting war crimes from African countries, from the old Soviet countries, and about how the International Criminal Court is having a major role in holding these figures accountable. Question 15 is, an accused is considered innocent until proven guilty. Which one of the following best reflects this principle? Let's go through it. No conviction recorded, so that doesn't reflect innocent until proven guilty, because that's just saying they're not guilty. Suspend the sentence, kinda. The key word in here is best. Best reflects this principle. So that's kind of suspending the sentence, going, yeah, we're going to suspend that. If something happens again and you're proven guilty again, then that comes back into play. Remand, definitely not. And then bail, you think about it, considered innocent until proven guilty. So once their charges laid against them and they appeal for bail, and if bail is denied, they go into prison on remand, held in remand. If it is granted, they go out and can continue to live their normal lives until proven guilty. So the answer will be, A. The answer will be, I'll go back, the answer will be A. We have another story here. Kim and Ashley, both 14 years of age, buy spray paint cans from the local hardware store. While on the train home, they take the spray paint cans out of their bags. They are spotted by 2 police officers who approach and question them. They take the spray paint cans from them. Kim and Ashley go voluntarily with the officers to the police station. Which of the following actions by the police would not be permitted by law? So, if you have a look at the story, they take the spray paints off them. You have a look at the answers. Approaching Kim and Ashley on the train, so no, they're allowed to do that. Seizing the spray paint cans from Kim and Ashley, yes. So you can look at the police powers, the act that covers police powers, to have a look at what they are and not allowed to do. You go back through that in your notes. So seizing the spray paint cans, yes, they're allowed to do that. Insisting Kim and Ashley go to the police station, no, they can either arrest them and take them to the police station on the charge, or they can't go, oh, you should come, without actually giving them a charge. They can't make them come to the police station. And D, asking Kim and Ashley a series of questions on the train, is they allowed to do that. 17, what is the first duty of the police once Kim and Ashley arrive at the police station? As they are 14, which is the first thing you should have taken into your head, they can't really do much except for contact their parents and guardians. It's very straightforward. Under young offenders, you can look at what the police are allowed to do in regards to young offenders and how it differs to adults in your notes in that section, which you can purchase from LOLhsc.com. There's also a sample online in the free notes section. Question 18 is, why could Kim and Ashley be charged with a strict liability offence? Spray paint cans has become a big issue in terms of graffiti and how much it costs to remove graffiti. So pretty much nowadays, it's just having the spray paint cans on you is enough to charge you. So pretty much as you go through the answers, you can see that they had possession of the spray paint cans on the train, and that is enough to charge them. So question 19 is, where a human rights is set out in an international instrument, the action that best ensures its protection for Australian law is to be, so you go through the answers. A, acknowledged. No, you want it to be enforceable. Acknowledging it is one thing, is the first step, but it's not enough. And we'll go through to the other answer. C, promoted. It can help, but it doesn't, again, it's not enforceable. It doesn't protect any people. They can't take it to court. Then there's There's B, which enacted. So enacted means it's integrated into domestic law. As Australia's a dualist system compared to ratifying. So these are two measures. You have enacted and ratified, and this is people will have the most confusion in terms of answering this question. So we have a look at ratification, and that means you in the international instrument, Australia agreed to follow its guidelines. But what enacting does, it integrates it into domestic legislation, and then it makes it enforceable to all of the people in Australia. So for to best assure the protection of a human right in Australian law, it's best for it to be enacted through domestic legislation, as Australia is a dualist system, as I said, compared to a monist system. The final question is question 20, and that is, Alice has received an official legal document in relation to an offence she has allegedly committed. She is required to attend the local court on a certain date. What is this legal document known as? So you just look through the answers. If you know your definitions of what your documents and what happens in the courtroom, you will know this question very easily. So warrant, no, that's for an arrest. So it's not that. A summons, yes, it is a summon because you're summoning someone to the court. So that means that injunction, no, and indictment, no, are not the answers. So you just got to know your definition of what a summon is, what a warrant is. Indictment, injunction, not so much, but these are very main parts, and you can be asked a definition for either one of these. But yeah, so that's the answer. So overall, I hope that I've helped you. I've tried to go through it as best as I can off my head, really. What I've done is I've included the sample answers from the 2012 HSC legal studies, like from Board of Studies, in the description below. The answers are pretty straightforward once you have your notes, once you think about each question, go through each one. If you need notes for any of the topics, we have them at www.LOLhsc.com. If you have a particular question for one of these or another multiple choice, send us an email at admin@LOLhsc.com, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, we have membership available on site, and we will reply as quick as possible again to your emails. Good luck, and again, hope this helped.